Okay, hello everybody. This is Noe with Walk with Yah, and this is Walk with Yah live stream number 45. Hopefully everyone can hear me this time, starting off. So, Walk with Yah Ministry. We talk about spiritual warfare, deliverance, how to get people set free, how to apply the Bible to your life, how to position yourself to where you can maximize your blessings and minimize the oppression, because really that's what we're called here to do, to bring glory to God, to Yeshua. But we gotta, some things that we gotta fight to make that happen. We have to learn how to live the Bible. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, and look, you should be able to see those messages on my screen. Yay. All right, I'm playing with something new tonight. Cool. Let's see if some Facebook people can hop on here and say something. So, anyways, so glad you could make it. So this is going to be a good show. I'm really hoping a lot of people make it tonight because, again, this is going to be about you. This is going to be about me. This is going to be about us. This is going to be about living in, his kingdom, the family. And so not like mafiosa family. I'm not talking that. So, not here to threaten you, or at least much. Okay, anyways, let's get started. I'm just going to jump right into it. So, let me ask this question. How do we learn best? So, in high school, I felt I did a pretty good job by cramming everything in the night before a test. Have you ever tried doing that with your dentist? That doesn't really work. But for me, it worked in high school. And so it was good enough to give me a consistent B average, but did I really learn the material? That's kind of debatable. Now, I think most of us know now that the best way to really learn any material is through various means of reinforcements. Some people may have particular methods that work for them, whether that's reading or, maybe they don't like reading so much. Maybe they like watching videos. We're all different. But basically, however you can reinforce the material, it strengthens those neural paths, those neurological pathways in your brain to make the material more accessible, more easily accessible later. All right, let me check this here. Yay. Hey, Madeline, good, glad you could make it. Am I seeing your comment on there? Okay. I might not be able to see the Facebook comments tonight because yours truly was playing around some. And I think I turned something off that on the Facebook side. Anyways, so for you Facebookers out there, you might just have to scream louder, or probably won't make a difference. I probably won't see you anyways. Anyways, just playing around with stuff. But I'm going to keep on going. But I believe that we all know that we learn best by application. I think that's fair enough to say. Putting what we know into practice, we transition from having knowledge more so to having wisdom and understanding. Now, I'm going to read some verses here. And I want you to consider what God is telling his people. And so this, what I'm about to read, it's in the Jewish Orthodox, community. It's known as the Shema. In some Bibles, this says that this is the greatest commandments. And so this is a most important prayer in the Orthodox Jewish faith. Okay, starting with Deuteronomy 6, verse 1. And this is the command, the laws, the right rulings which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded, to teach you to do in the land which you are passing over to possess, so that you fear Yahweh your Elohim, to guard all his laws, his commands, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson all the days of your life, and that your days be prolonged. And you shall hear, O Israel, and shall guard to do, that it might be well with you, and that you increase greatly, as Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you. Shalom, patriotic homesteader, glad you could make it. And so I'm going over this most important prayer because I want us to pull some things out of this. But going back to Deuteronomy 6:3, and you shall hear, O Israel, and shall guard to do, that it might be well with you, and that you increase greatly, as Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. Even for those of you that are probably lactose intolerant, I'm sure there is a special milk just for you. Deuteronomy 6:4, very important. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is one. I want to stop there for a second, but I want to read some more. We have to understand that when the Jewish people, when they read hear, what they take that to mean is to hear and do. Not just hear, take it in, store it in your head, ponder on it and leave it there. No. They actually take that to mean to hear and do something with it, some action. Deuteronomy 6:5. And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart. Deuteronomy 6:7. And you shall impress upon them your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So me, myself, I got this thing here, not the big black thing, but this here, it actually has the Shema prayer, because it says, write it on your doorposts. I physically have it on my heart. And so if people don't have it on their doorposts, I'm covered. Anyways, that's just me. Okay, so again, hear and do. There's all those commands. When you're walking along the way, when you're sitting in your house, when you lie down, when you rise up, you shall impress them upon your children. So where do we do this application of the things that I just mentioned? In the midst of others? Within relationships? I started reading this book called The Other Half of the Church by Jim Wilder and Michael Hendricks. Excuse me, because I'm going to go get that book right now. I left it all the way over there. Un momento, por favor. Okay, did you miss me? So this book right here, kind of do the, there we go. Yeah, good book. So it interestingly discusses how God created our brains to function best within the community. And they talk about what neuroscience has to say, and I found it fascinating. Although I'm only on chapter 3, honestly enough. Hello, Sawdust. Glad you could make it. Good evening, wherever you're coming from. We're in I'm in Atlanta, so we're glad you could make it. Interesting name there. I'm sure there's a story behind that. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of many other good books on neuroscience and Bible and God, other stuff like that, but I haven't read those. So this is what you're getting tonight, sort of, somewhat. So a big premise of this book is that people learn good biblical morals and values, but it doesn't change their lives. Why? Because it's stuck in their head. It's like it's living by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because even good knowledge can be bad if it doesn't submit to faith, if you don't do anything with it. Oh, got it. Coming from the same place. Okay, now, because knowledge in itself can lead to pride, narcissism, stagnation, and even worse, evil deeds. So, but God, used this book as an impetus to start giving me more insight about community. And I met recently with my new pastor, and he had a lot of wisdom to add to this concept, as he's really kind of big on this, rightfully so. And so I'm not trying to say that I know everything. As for the past few years, I've basically been a curmudgeon, down in my man cave, drinking grog. Sometimes have like a little frog peeping out at me and that type of stuff. Focusing entirely on deliverance ministry. Now, I believe the season is changing to where, amongst other things, God has much to show me, to show us about Comm-Unity, community. So for those that don't know the importance of Comm-Unity, I wanted us to talk about that tonight. Now, Walk with Yah believes that tough times are ahead. And although I pray that I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that I'm not. So what happens when the infrastructure around you starts crumbling? What happens when all you have is your Comm-Unity? Those people close to you that are somewhat like-minded? Because right now it seems that the cabal is trying to kill us off through the highly processed foods laden with chemicals, through meds, bad government policy, and with trains with chemicals just happen to be crashing here recently. Interesting how that happens. Because, and we've kind of become complacent with this stuff, much less so over the past, year or months or whatever, but overall we've been pretty complacent with it. As you think about this, just as a little side note, as we start talking about Comm-Unity, you might want to consider, what are you bringing to the table? Just a thought. So we need to learn how to depend on each other like they did in the book of Acts. We see this in Acts 2, verses 42 through 47. Acts chapter 4, verses 32 through 35. Because that's kind of in a sense, the goal. We're kind of going back to that. And so, and that's when they actually did it right. Because God was doing crazy miracles to where it was common in the Comm-Unity. And that's why we have to get this right. Well, you don't have to, I guess, if you prefer to be without. Now, before I get started, I'm going to suggest, if you're new here, that you subscribe to Walk with Yah. You can do that on the website. You can do that on YouTube, Rumble, MeWe, Facebook, Instagram, all those different, cool platforms. I'm not hip enough to be on all of them, although I'm thinking about TikTok, not for my phone. Anyways, So why do I keep saying Comm-Unity? Is it just because I got a tic or something like that? I got a little, Tourette's or something like that? What I'm trying to emphasize is the etymology, the history of this word. As basically it means common unity, or what is best for the common good. In today's world, especially in the US, we become highly individualized in every way, where we have so many options for the way that we want it. When you go to a restaurant, you can order, food 100 different ways. You can buy a car, with all the different options just for you, which is good and bad. So many people actually even do this when they're reading the Bible. They choose which parts they like and they ignore the parts they don't like. Not to their benefit, I add. Now notice when God gave the Shema in Deuteronomy 6, and even Yeshua, Jesus, restates this, although a little bit differently. He does this in Matthew 22, chapter 22, verses 23 through 32, as well as Mark chapter 28, verse 34, that God is talking about Comm-Unity relationships. Our relationship to Yah first, and then to our neighbor as ourself secondly. So when we're so focused on getting our needs met primarily, it's really hard to live in Comm-Unity. Okay, so I mentioned before, neurological, big, long, lot of syllable type of words made me look smart, along with the glasses. They kind of helped me make me look smart too. But how did God, neurologically wire our brains for community? I'm sure some of you are asking this. So we know the world today is driven mostly by intellect, which is left brain thinking. Think, it's logic. Think AI, artificial intelligence, which I believe Satan is totally trying to put in place, by the way. I don't trust it at all, at least not the higher levels of it. But the left brain is only half the picture. Sure, our left brain helps us formulate our beliefs and doctrines, but the left brain, again, is only half the picture. But these beliefs and doctrines, which the left brain helps us formulate, are also created from the right brain, which is the relational part of knowing God. In order for us to function as created, we need both sides in balance. Otherwise, our character, our beliefs, etc., will be off balance. I think I may have said this before. I was kind of looking for churches, and I was at this one congregation, and they were very heavy, on theology and stuff like that. Not so much in the gifts. I went to another church that was heavy on the gifts, but they weren't so deep theology. And I was just like, can I find a little more something in the middle? And so we need balance. So I found this church that's balanced, at least the way I feel it should be. So keep in mind also that our left brain operates at the speed of words, and our right brains operate at the speed of joy. I'll get more into that, just a little bit more. Our left brain is analytical, logical, detail and fact-oriented, numerical, linear, and again, likely to think in words. Our right brain is creative, able to see the big picture, intuitive, nonlinear, and likely to visualize more in thoughts than in words. Oh, and here's a hint for you. Before your prayer time, or you're doing any ministry or whatever, I suggest that you step away from the computer or those things that are left brain logical. Data, like watching the news, that type of stuff, computers, the news, TV, and do something kind of artsy and free-flowing before you pray to help your right brain and your human spirit become more, up to the front. Because again, that right brain and your human spirit's kind of more free-flowing and, all that type of stuff. Anyways, I found it fascinating when this book talked about preconscious thoughts. And these thoughts, these preconscious thoughts, are the thoughts that you have immediately before the left side part of your brain kicks in. Because that is really who you are. The right brain brings together our life, our loved ones, our bodies, our emotions, our identities, our community, and then our character formation flows out of this. Wow, look at that. Hello, Nancy. Okay. Nancy knows all about community. I should probably have her teaching tonight. But unfortunately, she's not here. But she is in the United States. So, yay. Glad you could join us as we're talking about community tonight. So again, our right brain processes much faster than our left brain. Consider walking to a room full of people. Your right brain is going to immediately start asking questions like, who here is happy to see me? What do I feel right now? Is there anyone here that understands me? How do I act like myself right now? What do my people do in this type of situation? Cheryl says, oh, actually it'll pop up on the screen now. That's right, I forgot. I put that, so everyone should be able to see that. Again, if you're on Facebook, I think I did something to where I cannot see your comments in real time, so my apologies. I'm playing around with stuff. So anyways, the answers to these questions drive our character development. When we are well formed, our identity and character will remain stable. And the book has a lot more to say, but I just wanted to give you a small, tasty morsel of goodness to help you start understanding why Comm-Unity is important. The good news is that the book identifies many problem areas and also has many drills to help you build your right brain to bring balance. Okay, so that's enough for show and tell. So Cheryl's saying, yep, doing artsy is interesting before prayer. I used to quit and very much pray when I quilted. Yes. So yeah, I sometimes I have an instrument. I don't know if I can be called a musician, but sometimes to help kind of get me in that flow, I'll kind of just putz around. So moving on. So pray tell, what do we have to give up individually for the greater good? I'm not going to spend much time here for right now because that's where you're going to kind of come in later and talk about some of this, as I want the class to know your thoughts. But I want to read over a few verses just to kind of to think about a few things. Excuse me. Okay, so starting with Matthew 5:21. You heard it said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you, whoever is wroth with his brother without a cause shall be liable to judgment. And whoever says to his brother, raka, which means fool, worthless, it's almost kind of like murder in the heart. Yeshua here is not saying that anger is as bad as murder, but rather he's condemning both here. Anyways, he says, anyone who says to his brother, raka, fool, shall be liable to the Sanhedrin. But whoever says, you fool, shall be liable to the fires of Gehenna, hell. If then you bring your gift to the slaughter place, and there remember that your brother holds whatever against you, leave your gift there before the slaughter place, and go. First make peace with your brother, and then come off and offer your gift. Be well-minded with your opponent promptly, while you're on the way with him, lest your opponent deliver you to the judge, and the judge to the officer, and you be thrown into prison. Now again, in verse 5:22, this says, coming to your brother without a cause. But even if they do have a cause, if you want mercy, you might want to give mercy. So, now this is a great example. These verses that I just read is of something known as, again, Orthodox Jewish understanding, Hebrew type of understanding, as Lashon Hara, or the evil tongue. Not enough time for that tonight, although I probably need to teach on that at some point in time. But that's, you start letting your tongue rule you, it's going to put you in a bad spot at some point in time. It's going to backfire. Now, here's another tricky one that I'm going to warn you in advance, that this verse is commonly misunderstood. But it's still very much in the context of community, so I kind of want to, bring it up. So, Matthew 5, verse 27. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone looking at a woman, Greek word is gune, to lust for her, has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So the problem here, again, this is in community. That word gune specifically means wife. It doesn't necessarily mean a maiden. It's basically, again, someone else's wife, as Yeshua, Jesus, is pointing back to Exodus 20, verse 17. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, female servant, ox, donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. Now, men, am I saying it is okay to undress any maidens with your eyes? No, that's not what I said. So don't hear that. When I was studying on how to increase my spiritual vision, I ran across this verse, Matthew 5, verse 8. Blessed are the clean in heart, because they shall see Elohim. They shall see God. Do you realize that the gates to your soul, that if they are darkened, can invite demons into your being? Please reference Matthew 6, chapter 6, verses 21 through 23. So if you want to increase your spiritual vision, I strongly suggest that you be careful on what you take into your senses, into your gates, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your feeling, all that type of stuff. Those are the gates. Those are the gates into your soul, how you take the world in. Now, I also want you to consider this. From a godly woman's perspective, they can pick up on that defilement as well, because I've heard them say this. And they don't like it. It grosses them out. And so, now if it's an ungodly woman, they probably like flaunting and all that type of stuff. But anyways, moving on. Galatians 6, verse 1. Brothers, if a man is overtaken in some trespass, You, the spiritual ones that consider yourself spiritual, set such a one straight in the spirit of meekness, looking at yourself, lest you be tried too. Bear one another's burdens, and so complete the Torah of Messiah. For if anyone thinks of himself to be somebody when he is not, deceives himself. But let each one examine his own work, and then he shall have boasting in himself alone, and not in another. For each one shall bear his own burden. The focus here for me is, hey, we need to be helping each other, bearing each other's burdens as much as possible. At some point in time, yes, they are accountable for themselves. Boundaries, balancing act there. Do we take on, everyone else's burdens all the time so they don't learn? I'm not saying that either. But I'm going to sum up everything here by reading out of Galatians verse 5. Starting with Galatians 5 verse 16. And I say, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not accomplish the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are opposed to each other, so that you do not do what you desire to do. But if you are led by the Spirit, you're not under Torah. And the works of the flesh are well known, which are these: adultery, whoring, uncleanliness, indecency, idolatry, drug sorcery, hatred, quarrels, jealousies, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions, envy, murder, drunkenness, wild parties, and the like, of which I forewarn you, even as I said before, those that practice such as these shall not inherit the reign of Elohim. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, and self-control. And against these there is no Torah. There is no law. So who thinks that all those sins are good to do in relationships, in community? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody's hands being raised there, or faces for that matter. Who thinks I should be doing this over Zoom? Also, when going over the good list, and there's a lot more bad stuff than there was good, but did you notice that self-control was last on the list? Why? Because it takes a lot of investing in yourself, walking with Yeshua, living the Bible, to get to that last one. It comes over time and through relationships. Okay, so enough of me talking. I want to ask you, my beloved audience, a few questions. So I'm asking for your participation here. One, what do you think the benefits of community are? And I will just sit here and wait and twiddle my thumbs. Yeah, this is probably not a good night for me to block all the people that were on Facebook on. All right, so I'll give some of y'all a pass. So what do you think the benefits of community are? Okay, so in community, we got just things off the top of my head. We have different ages of people. We have little kids, assistants. Thank you, Sawdust. So I had a problem tonight with my car. I had someone come over to look at it because I'm not the best with cars. I'm not the best with handiwork, stuff like that. Computers, I'm good at. Anyways, assistance. There's things that we cannot do by ourselves. The other day, I was on a wobbly ladder, and it was like, even for that, it was like I would really like someone here to hold this ladder. So yes, assistance. Okay, another area, another opinion is to bounce ideas off of each other. And so I've heard it said from many pastors that they give their best sermons on Saturday nights when no one's around. And they're just practicing and blasting it out there. And it sounds like it is the best sermon ever. Except they're not getting any feedback. It's one way. That's one reason why I was looking for your input tonight. And so another idea. So Cheryl, that was really good. Worship. Yes. So worship, you can do worship alone. And just so you know, music isn't needed for worship. Worship is basically just surrendering yourself to His will. But when doing it in community, it is a lot more powerful. It is a lot more powerful. And so when everyone around you is kind of like having that same attitude of worship, like, Father, hey, whatever it is that you say, whatever it is you want to do, you're in control, because really we're all dependent upon Him. Just some of us realize it more than others. In community, we have different ages of people. So with children, you can kind of help them out. That's how they learn, is through community. They see mentors, people kind of living, acting stuff out. You have the middle-aged group that are, again, they got these ideas, bouncing stuff off each other, like Cheryl said. You have your elders and stuff like that who, hey, guess what? They've lived the life before. They probably have some wisdom. Sure, they may not understand computers or whatever. That doesn't make them stupid. And so you don't, as my mom used to say, getting old isn't for wimps. And so they've lived through some stuff. And so there's a lot of benefits, and not to mention, the produce. Hey, maybe you got eggs. Maybe you got, this type of food. Maybe you got rope. Maybe, you got something else that I need. Because, to be honest, that's how God created us. That's where the blessings come from. It has been said that the Father is about community. If you look at the Bible, He talks about the Father being, of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. When you read the Bible, a lot of times it gives all the genealogies and all the names. Why? Because He cares about everyone. Because in the Bible, it's typically understood that if your name is mentioned, it's because you were a godly person. If your name wasn't mentioned, they're like, yeah, son of so-and-so, and, it's more than likely like, oh yeah, he probably didn't make it. His name wasn't worth mentioning. Not to say that there are definitely some evil people that were, made the mark for being evil. Not that that's any type of accolade. So there's a lot of benefits of community. Ecclesiastes talks about, hey, if there's one person falls down and there's another one there to help him, well then, you got someone there to help you. Or like a threefold cord, is stronger than a one-fold cord, whatever that looks like. Okay, so my second question was, what do we learn by being in community? But that's kind of like what the first one was, so. Well, no. Okay. So what I think, I'm going to approach this a little bit differently. So what do we learn by being in community? We learn that kind of how to deal with our emotions. I'm going to look at this from that way. So again, the anger, or if you have pride, if that stuff doesn't really work too well. If you have lust, all these problems, these imperfections, when you're alone, you can get away with that. When you're in a community, not so much, And so some of those things that you could pass off in community, it doesn't work so well, if you have a strong community. In some of the Jewish communities, those that are biblically based, they would have something called a Beit Din. And what that was elders that were well versed in the Bible, and basically in a given community, if you had a problem, you would take it to the Beit Din and they would judge according to what the Bible says. And so in the future, that may not necessarily be such a bad idea either. And then the community's gonna, obviously got to agree on standards and that type of stuff, which will differ per community. But we learn things like, how to respect one another, how to fight with, within rules, how to disagree, how to get along. And so, anyways. Now, 3, what are the challenges that we have building communities? And kind of branching off the second question I just asked, if you are a thief, if you're using false weights and measures, if you're doing a lot of those sins, if you're not honest with yourself, because I've heard one person say, if you are not honest with yourself, you will lie to everybody else. And that makes a whole bunch of sense to me. So if you're in a tight-knit community, these things will come out, and so for many reasons, I think that, again, we need to start thinking about being community-minded, not just for resources, but also just for how we live our lives. Okay, number 4. Why would the enemy not want us to be in community? Or why is the enemy actively coming against community and or the family? Anyone got any thoughts on that one? Because he is coming against the family, has been coming against the family for decades. It's not pretty. So I'll just say, because he knows, in the Bible it says that a house divided will fall. The enemy knows this too. Yeah, exactly. As Sawdust says, because he can be fought then. If we are united, which is what makes, as Cheryl says, we balance each other. So there is strength in numbers, even from the enemy side. It seems like they have a whole bunch of numbers on their side that where their means justifies their end. Or is it the other way around? Anyways, so I'm going to submit to you, and if you've been watching this live stream, this Walk with the Odd channel, you know that I'm into spiritual gift activation. 2 Corinthians 10 verses 3, verse 4. I said it before. I'll keep on saying it. I'm going to say it again right now. Which says, I'm looking it up right quick just so I don't get it wrong. Excuse me. 2 Corinthians 10:3. For we walk in the flesh, we do not fight according to the flesh. For the weapons we fight with are not fleshly, but mighty in Elohim and God. And it says some stuff after that. So I believe that each one of us has some type of spiritual gifting, and that we overcome a lot of our challenges in the earth by our spiritual giftings. That's why God gave them to us. We're working on a higher level, another level. Some people are prophetic and call things out. Hey, here's what I feel like God's saying, and this is what He's doing, and blah, 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 blah. Others may have a gift of healing. Others may have a gift of wisdom. A lot of different gifts. He didn't give them to us just to sit on them. And so I believe that if you can get in a community that is activated in their giftings, that they're going to be a lot more prepared. The gift of miracles. Heck, you might have to, hit a rock with your shoe or something for water to come springing out. I don't know. Because, God can work in a million different ways. And so, but do you have the faith of it? That's another gift, a gift of faith. And so, it is known that if in a group of people, if there is like one person that tends to pull them down, the rest will usually follow. It doesn't always happen. Not in strong communities. We see this with Joshua and Caleb, right? Going to the promised land. You had 10 people who were like, we're coming against these giants and we look like grasshoppers, and we'd rather go back and have the leeks and all that type of stuff back in Egypt, and why'd you bring us here, Moses, to die in the desert? God was not very happy with that. Not at all. Not after all they had seen and done and known. And guess what? Where we are in the world today, we know a lot more than what they did then. They may have experienced it, but there's a lot of people today that are experiencing miracles all the time. I hear about them, see them all the time. So we have less of an excuse. But in Proverbs 28:1, I believe it says that the righteous are as fearless as lions. And if you know that you're right with God, if He is if He is for me, who can be against me? Well, then you're not going to be full of fear. You're going to be full of, again, that's when all the blessings start coming in, and we saw in the books of Acts. They were living the Bible. They were seeing miracles. They were sharing everything with each other. No one had any lack whatsoever. So I believe the enemy is trying to break the family apart again, because there is strength, there are spiritual giftings, there's blessings, there's all kinds of good stuff that we have been trained that, that more people bring more problems. Okay, I'm going to start winding this down. The good news is that we can do this, and that God wants us to do this. Yes, Comm-Unity can be messy. It sure can. But that's where our blessings are. Because God has hidden His gifts within us. It's like working in a diamond mine, finding raw diamonds. It takes work to make them beautiful. And this is the way God intended it, if we can get over ourselves. In deliverance ministry, there's a lot of people that need a lot of work. And as deliverance ministers, we have to try to put the rose-colored glasses on and see, if we can pull the good out. It's not always possible. Sometimes people don't want to do the work. And I'm not necessarily willing to do more work than the person I'm ministering to, because I'll burn myself out. So again, there is a balance, there is a line, there is a cutoff point. And so, but for those people that are willing to work, heck, I will go out of my way to help them. Now, I'm not saying that you should get lost in serving everybody else all the time, as there is boundaries. And Walk with Yah believes in balance in all things. And who knows? God may tell you, no, you need to stick this one out. And which he has done before, by the way, where I did not want to endure. And he was like, you need to endure. And it was not easy, but there was a lot of blessings that came in that, from that. He was trying to develop my character to learn how to submit. So, in Deuteronomy 28, verse 14, the Bible says, do not turn aside from any of the words which I'm commanding you today, right or left, to go after other mighty ones to serve them. Because sometimes we can get off the path on either side of the road, the right or the left. We can not serve people and just think about ourselves, or sometimes we can go too much and serve them and thinking that he wants us to do that when he might have said no a while back. He might have said yes, but he might have said no. That's where, again, that relationship part of knowing him helps. So I'm going to suggest that this next week that you reach out to somebody that you don't normally, just for fellowship. Or maybe practice uplifting others as you go throughout your day. Maybe even those people that aren't so nice to you. Maybe they're hurting. Maybe they need someone to see beyond their pain. Just some thoughts. I was actually at an intersection the other day. There was a car right in the middle of the intersection. This wasn't my best moment. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you out there? I kept on driving. Came back around 10 minutes later, and I saw that car off to the side of the road, police station there, directing traffic, and I'm like, Noe, like, why did you automatically think the worst? Note to self. So I'm trying to learn how to give people grace up front. Initially. Anyways, I hope that this helped you. I hope that this helped you see the need that, we might be coming into a different season. Things might be changing. And as it says in Isaiah, I'm doing a new thing. Can you see it? He might be doing a new thing because of what is going on in the world. Anyways, this is Noe with Walk with Yah Ministry. I ask you to share this ministry info with your friends because we need to get this word out. Because many people don't understand what it is that they're fighting. Even people that are in church, they don't understand. They don't believe in deliverance. They don't believe in demons. Again, they kind of pick apart the Bible and kind of see it the way they want to see it. And so I'm not mad at them. I just pray that they get it at some point in time. But please feel free to email me if you have any questions. That's Noe@walkwithyah.com. I look forward to seeing you again, which will be on March the 16th at 7:30 p.m. I'm glad you could make it. Thank you for being a part. Thank you for your input. I could not have done this without you. I look forward to seeing you next time. I bless you. I bless you with his peace, with knowing who you are in him, with in your study time, in your prayer time, that those words that, whether it's through the Bible, they would sink into your heart, that he would speak to you, that you would feel him closer, that you would start to see when you start applying his word, that is life. This that we're living here, in this flesh suit on this earth, this isn't the real life. This is the first life. We got a lot more ahead of us. This is just a practice run. And we need to get this right. Because it'll be worth it. Our investment shouldn't be our 401k, our IRA, because if that's what you're putting your hope in, then you're missing the bigger picture. Because there's a lot more than that. We're not supposed to fall in love with the world or the world's riches and all that type of stuff. This isn't about that. So anyways, I bless you. Shalom. This is Noe. And maybe your miracle could be next.